you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I was listening with rapt attention to Dr. Pandav about the turtles. What am I doing here? I am not an expert on the environment. I am not an academic. I am here representing the people of Bangladesh, of the coastal area of Bangladesh, and countries in the BIMSTEC who also have the coasts, and how we are being affected in our day-to-day lives by climate change. Climate emergency, actually. It's no longer climate change. Personal story. The home that 4 generations of my family have grown up in, including myself, gets, when there's very high tide, it's in the city, it's in Chattogram. When it's very high tide, the water comes in the courtyard. That is, it was unthinkable maybe 10, 12 years ago. There are many parts of Chattogram which get inundated due to the sea level rise. And like Dr. Pandav mentioned, the pollution that we are subjecting our seas to is not helping. One river, we are dredging our rivers in Bangladesh, right? During dredging, one of the river basins were found to have meters and meters of plastic. And the machine could not work because the machine is going to dredge and supposed to dredge the ground, right? They're replacing the machines. That is what we are doing to our environment. And it was rightly said by the chair that environment issues do have a gender factor. Women have to go for kilometers to get drinking water. And women, when they become family become climate refugees, women bear the brunt. So, what is BIMSTEC doing about this? We have countries like India and Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. We are all affected by natural calamities to certain degrees. And it's definitely due to the climate emergency. We have our own, nation's laws, like marine protected areas. We have in Bangladesh marine protected areas, the Forest Act, many laws, many acts. But ultimately, if we are not working together towards a shared goal in the region, if I'm trying to protect my coast, see the coastal green belt that Bangladesh has nurtured from 1972, it protected Bangladesh from many cyclonic storms. We had to do away of hundreds of acres of that coastal green belt in Teknaf to make room for the forcibly displaced Rohingyas from Myanmar. So conflict or any other situation definitely affects the environment. We have seen it in our history. So what is the way forward? Bangladesh, recently in our last session of Parliament, we have passed a motion. On November 13th, we passed a motion. Actually, Bangladesh Parliament has become the first parliament to pass this motion on declaring planetary emergency. Maybe our colleagues in BIMSTEC can also take this forward. There are 23 parliaments in the world who have declared climate emergency, But we have gone one step further and declared planetary emergency, which is actually the situation we are in. We can talk about blue economy, we can talk about security, we can talk about so many things. But in this region, poverty is an issue, food security is an issue. If we are destroying the resources, security will not, any other sort of security is not going to help us. It will not fill our bellies. It will not, take us forward. When we are talking about sustainable industrialization, in the BIMSTEC region, there are countries who are, more industrialized, maybe emitting more, but there are also countries like Bhutan, which gross national happiness and their emphasis on environment is highly admirable. Bangladesh does have I think one of the highest number of green factories in the world. We are, taking the right step in the right direction. But of course, we have to work together. We have to share expertise. And in my humble opinion, BIMSTEC gives climate change it's a crucial area of cooperation for BIMSTEC. But what concrete steps have been taken so far? I don't see too many. And of course, when we are talking about funding for such issues, where is the fund coming from? All the member countries have priorities like development, etc., etc. Many, we all know that. So where is the fund coming from? And we have had experience of donor agencies forcing down, forcing certain steps on us, which in the long run have actually damaged our environment. We must also be aware of that. So we cannot, go take suggestions from very faraway lands who do not know what our region's environment is like. So I would like to make a few suggestions about nationally determined contributions. How are we determining that in the BIMSTEC region? And about finances, we can think of green bonds. We can actually think of green bonds in this region. And of course, funds, resources are to be used optimally. There has to be, steps which make accountable and ensure that funds are being used properly. And we can have special biodiversity conservation areas. I'm sure we all have in most of the member nations. And there are ecologically critical areas. There we can talk about river basin management. It was a very interesting session in session 2 when we were talking about the MDA. And river basin management is another huge issue related with the environment. Because Bangladesh, for my country, it's big because we are a riverine country. So many people's livelihoods depend on the river. And when we are talking about cooperation and river transport, it also affects the whole region. I feel that slow, quiet, incremental policies like planting seagrass meadows it may be our best hope, not only big dramatic projects which require a lot of money. We should start and work together yesterday because there is no planet B. And none of us want to have climate refugees. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We are having the railways till Cox's Bazar from Chittagong. And there are many areas where wild elephants pass through. So the challenge is, what do? We make overpasses for the wild elephants to move through. How will you make them take the overpasses? Or we make bridges, or flyovers for the trains to go through. Challenge is to make balance between connectivity, economic development, GDP, to make everything sustainable. So we are all facing this problem. And the challenge is there that we have to overcome, and we have to work together. It's when we share the best practices, and when we not just talk about it, we have to ensure implementation. If we talk about an idea and then take it to the summit level, then it is talked about again, then it is decided on, then implementation is not even in 3 years. In these 3 years, so many things are happening. Our environment is getting more damaged. And we must also talk about the air quality. Like Dr. Wanafa was speaking, and Delhi had very bad air quality. Now it's Dhaka. Dhaka is the worst. And there is no Dhaka, it's not happening because of burning residue of the crops. It's for all the brick kilns around Dhaka. And bricks are required to make buildings. We are moving into the environment-friendly bricks. It's taking time. All our economies are energy hungry. We need energy. We need to focus more on cross-border trade of clean energy. Thank you so much.